Hi, I'm Richard Rogers, and I absolutely hope that you enjoy today's spiritual message. You know, we at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center are committed to helping people live better lives. We're going to provide you tools over and over, spiritual tools that allow you to live your best possible life. And if you want to leave a donation to continue to allow the work that we do to support other people just like you, we say thank you. Thank you for your generosity, because this ministry is committed to making the world a better place.
So do you know what your greatest desire is? 1, 2. Do you know what your greatest desire is? See, what I want you to see is that everything in your life gets easier when you know what your greatest desire is. Because if you don't know what your greatest desire is, then you're kind of a little bit of a wandering kind of a thing going on. Because you just don't know. But the moment you know what your greatest desire is, everything that brings a level of clarity to your life. Because you know the most important thing, right? And it actually gives you the energy for transformation, right? Because if you don't know really what you want, then why bother to change if this is just fine? You know, well, I would like kind of a little bit different, but you know, oh well. Right? But if you really have a passionate desire, if you know what the thing that is the most important to you, and if it's really the most important to you, you'll do whatever it takes to get there. You'll move heaven and earth to get to where you want to go. And so part of in life is really knowing what your most important thing is and believing that you can actually get there. Because there's people that actually know what their most important thing is, but they think it's so out of reach or so out of touch or so impossible that they never give themselves permission to really go for it. So part of what we're going to do tonight is really clarify what your most important thing is so that you can let go of everything that's not that. Or at least most of everything that's not that. Because sometimes when we're creating what we don't want, it's a little disappointing. Have you ever had that experience where you created it and it's like, I don't really want this? Because the thing that's so amazing is you can't make yourself salivate. That might be the wisest thing I've ever said, right? And if you really pay attention, it's really important. You can't make yourself salivate. You can't want something that you don't really want. You can only salivate for the things that you actually want. But we get in our head and we start thinking all these thoughts, and it's like, well, I can't really have it, or it's not really that, or whatever. And it's like that your body knows you can't make yourself salivate. So what if you got to the most important thing? And what if that most important thing allowed you to clarify and release everything that's not that? Can you imagine that would be helpful? That's where we're going. As we begin this 4-week series, that's where we're going. Over and over again, we're going to move to that point. And because what I believe over and over again is that when we know what the most important thing is, there's a lightness that happens within our soul. Several years, maybe 10 years ago, I was going to go speak at Unity in Maui. I was flying over to speak at Unity in Maui. It's really, if you're going to speak anywhere, speaking at Unity in Maui is really a good place to speak, right? So I was traveling by myself. I went got to the airport, got the rent a car, was going to Unity in Maui just to kind of tell them I was there and check in. And there's a little pizza place in Waiku that I was going to stop and have a slice before I got to the church because it'd been a long flight. Stop and have a slice. And I get to this little pizza place in Waiku, and the guy behind the counter is definitely from New York. Right? Still in the New York accent, definitely from New York, right? And I'm just ordering, I'm trying to decide what I want. And finally he just says to me, buddy, you're going to have to lighten up. This is Maui. And I think, oh, I'm light. This is not a hard job, right? Flying to Maui to speak at Maui the next day is not a hard job. It is not a problem. It's a really nice, wonderful thing, right? It's not, so I don't feel stressed. Have you ever been so stressed that you don't even realize that you're stressed? right? So I get there, and I think I am chill. I totally think I'm chill. And this guy looks across the corner, and this guy's from New York and nails me as, you need to lighten up. And I'm trying to order a pizza. Like, there's no stress here, right? And what I began to realize is maybe I had a level of stress that even in my chill spot may not be as reflected as I think I am. Have you ever been that place where you think you got your chill down and people are like, man, you just need to back up a little bit because you're freaking me out, right? And so what would you have to let go of to get to a level of peace that transforms every situation? And would you be willing to free your soul to know a level of peace that transcends your stuff? It's like that old joke. You know why angels can fly? Because they take themselves lightly. Right? Okay, reading from John 21. And in this point in John, Jesus has already been crucified and resurrected, and now he's in the body of light. And it's kind of freaking the disciples out because now he's in this body of light, and so he appears, and then he goes away, and he appears, and he goes away. And they're kind of freaked out that he's coming and going a lot, right? I mean, it's not like they don't understand this whole body of light thing that he's demonstrating, right? So this is John 21. Simon Peter says to the other disciples, I'm going fishing. I just love that line. And it's probably my second favorite Bible verse right now. I'm going fishing, right? Because sometimes that's just the highest spiritual truth you know is I'm going fishing. And the other disciples say, we want to go too. So they all get in the boat, and they're out fishing at night. And just as the breaking of day, Jesus stood on the beach and sees the disciples. And Jesus says to them, children, have you any fish? And they answer back, no. And he says, then cast your net on the right side of the boat, and you will find some. So they cast their net on the right side of the boat, and they haul in a quantity of fish, right? So as we're simplifying our life, what I want you to hear at the very beginning of this is that God wants you to succeed. Like so much of what we're doing right now is because we're afraid that the universe isn't working for us. And in this verse, over and over again, he demonstrates that the universe, God wants you to succeed. That God wants to direct you and guide you to the side of the boat where your net needs to be, where you can catch the most fish. So part of letting go is trusting that I'm always going to have what I need. That the infinite wisdom and love of the universe is going to tell you what side of the boat the fish are at, and you will actually know so that you don't have to keep hanging out with yesterday's fish. Right? Because sometimes we hang out with yesterday's fish so long because we're afraid to let it go even when it's stinky. Right? So God wants you to prosper. Verse 7, the disciples whom Jesus loved said to Peter, is it the Lord? And when Simon Peter heard it was the Lord, he put his clothes on that he had stripped off for work and sprang into the sea. Right? So that's such an interesting concept, right? Because in our culture, if we're going to jump in the water, we would probably take most of our clothes off, right? But in his culture, right, you can take off your clothes or strip down when you're working because it's hot. So when you're going to jump in the water, apparently you put your clothes on. So he put his clothes back on and jumped in the water. And then it says the disciples then rowed the boat to shore filled with the nets, but they were not too far, about 100 yards off. And when they got to the land, they saw a charcoal fire there with fish line on it and bread. And Jesus said to them, bring some of those fish that you just caught. So Simon Peter went on board and hauled in the net ashore full of large fish. And there were 153 of them, although there were so many that the net should have been torn. And Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast. Now none of the disciples there dared to ask who he was, but in their heart they knew he was the Lord. And Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them and with the fish. And this was the third time that Jesus had revealed himself to the disciples after he had been raised from the dead. And when they finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, son of John, do you love me more than these? And he said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And he said, then feed my lambs, right? So the question over and over again, I think the universe asks us, is do you love me? Do you love God more than you love your stuff? And we love our stuff. And we love our good stuff. And we love our old stuff. We love the stuff that we've had the longest. Right? We love that stuff. And the question that's being asked of us over and over again is, do you love God more than that? Well, I want to love God more than that. But I'm really attached to my stuff. I really like my old stuff. It makes me feel safe or calm or happy that I have all my old stuff. No, I don't wear it or use it, but it's there in case I need it because it's my stuff, right? So do you love me more than the stuff? And the second time he said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And he said, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Then tend my sheep. Then he asked them a third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And Peter was grieving because he had asked him a third time, do you love me? And he said to the Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my sheep. For truly I say to you, when a man is young, and I want you to hear this, truly when I say to you, when a man is young, he girds himself and he walks as he will. But when he's old, he will stretch out his arms and another will guide you and carry you where you do not wish to go. Okay? So when we're young, how many of us have ever been young and willful? How many of us have ever been old and willful? Right? But the teaching here is that when you're young, you're so willful that you just go wherever you want to go and do it however you want to do it, right? But the idea is that when you get to a certain age, you learn to surrender. You learn to trust God, that even if it's a direction you don't think you want to go, there's a part of you that's now mature enough that is willing to go even when you don't think you want to go there. Because if life is taking you there, there's a reason you're there, and that reason is for a blessing for your soul. So then he says this, right? And then he says to Simon Peter, come and follow me. And then Simon Peter wants to debate or wants to argue about who's going to, about which one of the disciples betrayed him and all this stuff. And Jesus just kind of stopped and said, what is that to thee? Come and follow me. And so we're at this critical moment, right? Where we're going to get an opportunity to really look at how important is our stuff, and is our stuff really making us happy in a really profound way? And who would we be if we didn't carry all this stuff with us? So over the next 4 weeks, we're going to look at four items. First one is we're going to look at spring cleaning our stuff. And you think, well, Richard, I want to talk about spiritual things. I don't want to talk about my messy closets, right? And I hear that, right? But there's a reason that every Zen temple is immaculately cleaned out, right? Because the idea is that when the external is cleared, when the external is organized, it's easier for your soul to be at peace. If you're walking in clutter every day, it's a little difficult to find peace. In the Eastern thought and Eastern religion, cluttered mind, cluttered outcome, right? Organized or orderly outcome, orderly internal. And so what if, for some of us, our next step is to really let go into a greater sense of peace? So we're going to focus on these four things. So on Facebook today, I invited people to say, I asked people the question, where do you store your stuff? And it was incredible because I got lots of comments. The spare bedroom, the junk drawer, the closets, the garage, outside storage. I mean, people shared all the places where they store their stuff. If you ask yourself the question, where do you store your stuff, your precious junk, right? And my favorite was a lady that typed in Goodwill, right? Right? Because what I want you to see is if you really believe that God provides everything, then how much do you need? Right? That for many of us, our holding on, our hoarding, is because we really have a fear that there's not going to be enough. And if you trusted God all the way, how much of your stuff would you be willing to let go of? And I read a study recently about the average size of homes in our country versus homes in other nations, in other countries. And the average home, the smallest average home was in Hong Kong. And that is 45 meters, which is 484 square feet, right? Which is about 15 by 30, right? So the whole home would be about 15 by 30, right? The largest home was 214 meters or 2,300 square feet in Australia. That the size of the average U.S. home since the recession is down to 2,164 square feet, that our square footage is actually getting smaller. But if you compare that to a house in the UK, the average home size in the UK is 815 square feet. Canada is 1948, China is 645, and China, the average square foot in the last 15 years in urban centers is actually doubled. So now it's 646, and it's doubled in the last 15 years. So the average home size in China 15 years ago was the size of most of our bedrooms. Isn't that amazing? That their whole home was the size of one of our bedrooms in one of our homes. The other thing that's amazing to me is that we now have 2.3 billion square feet of self-storage outside our home. Can I just say that again? 2.3 billion square feet of storage outside our home. That averaged 7 square feet for every man, woman, and child in our country. We have over 7 square feet of storage outside our home for all of us. I mean, for every one of us, right? That's the average. The largest states are Texas, Florida, California. It's now physically possible to put every person in our country in a storage unit. Literally, we have enough storage units that we could take our whole population and fit us all comfortably in a storage unit. It may not be the same unit, but I mean, there's that much storage. There are 51,000 storage facilities in our country. 51,000. 51,000. Do you know that that's 4 times more than there are McDonald's in our country? That there are 4 times more storage units. It feels like there's a McDonald's on every corner. That means there's 4 on every corner for storage units. That we have so much stuff in our culture that it no longer fits in our 21,000 square foot home. We have to go off-site, right? Now, let's look at this for a minute, okay? So we have so much stuff, and all that stuff requires what? Energy, right? It does. You got to store it, you got to pay for it, you got to clean it, you got to insure it. It requires energy, right? So we're storing all this stuff, paying to store all this stuff that we may or may not ever use. One of the ladies on Facebook says, I have a storage unit outside my house, but for the life of me, I can't remember what's in it, but I pay the bill every month, right? So we have this incredible amount of stuff, and what I want you to see is for most of us, our stuff isn't making us happier. And who would we be as a culture if we continue to downscale? There was a big thing about the new budget projections and whether the tax reform and how much gross national product is going to expand. And there's a big debate if it's going to get to 2% or 5% or what it's going to get to. And one of the things the announcer said is that people aren't spending like they used to. That people aren't spending as much money for things as they used to, that they're actually spending now more for experiences, right? Which I happen to think would be more of a spiritual process, right? If you're not spending as much for things and you're actually spending on experiences, it's because life is about experiences, not necessarily just about stuff, right? Can you go there? Okay, so do you know that one of the best-selling books, and I'm going to wrap this up, and then I'm actually going to get to my point, I promise. Do you know that one of the books that's now in the best-selling book right now is The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up? Has anybody read this book? It's a fascinating book. Isn't it a fascinating book? It's a fascinating book. It's Maria Kondo. She is a Japanese organizer. She's from Japan. She works with clients to organize their life, because if you have a small space, it's really helpful if it's organized. And there's 4 things, major 4 points that she gives you in this book. The first one is purge first, right? And she says purge everything at once, and in as brief a period of time as you can, and keep those items that only spark your joy. So can you imagine, all right, so you go through your whole house, and you only keep what sparks your joy. Husband could be in or out. If it doesn't spark your joy, he's out. Right? That everything in your life, kids, gone. If they don't spark your joy, it's out. It's gone, right? So everything in your life, if it doesn't spark your joy, it's gone. She says, and then purge by categories, right? Not by rooms. Start with clothes, followed by books, then papers, miscellaneous, and finally mementos. The method will allow you to see the duplicates that are hiding around your house and allow you to purge far more effectively. 3, do not invest in smart storage solutions. Complex storage solutions are for hoarders. Get rid of stuff rather than trying to figure out how to store more better. And the 4th one, and I love this one. It says that folding your stuff should always be vertical, never horizontal. So never stack. And I want you to see this, right? Because this is a game changer. How many of you stack up your clothes, right? And you put them in drawers and they're all stacked up? But the problem with stacking, as we all know, is that you can never really get or see what's on the bottom of the stack, right? She suggests that you turn everything sideways. Everything goes vertical. So that all your t-shirts in the t-shirt drawer are stacked up and down. Right? So that you can see, like when you pull out a drawer with your VCR, and all the CDs or they're all lined up and down so you can see all of them. And I changed my sock drawer. And it radically, well, maybe not radically changed my life. But now my socks, instead of, I don't know about your sock drawer, but I used to have all my socks laying on their side, and rolled up on their side. So they'd all stack up, and then I'd have to dig through the whole drawer. Now they're like little Easter eggs, right? So all my socks are now on their end, right? So they're all stacked up. So when I open my sock drawer, I can see every sock in my drawer. Tell me that is not empowering. My undies are all lined up, end on end. I can see all my t-shirts are on their side so that everything, because it's empowering. When you take charge of your stuff, it's empowering. So I got 7 things. 5, 7, I don't know. Let's see how many things I have. The first one is, tonight, I want you to know what your most important desire is. I do. I want you to know what the most important thing is. Because until you know what the most important thing is, you can't really look at anything else in your life to make a decision. You can't create a matrix. You can't decide. But the moment you know what the most important thing is, then it creates a hierarchy of decisions. Oh, I want to be happy, or I want a great relationship, or I want a new job. What's the most important thing? And when you quit arguing with yourself and just say, this really is the most important thing, then everything gets a lot easier. 2, how important is the most important thing to you? Because if it really is that important, then sometimes we're willing to make choices for our desires. And sometimes we're willing to make choices for our desires that we wouldn't make if we don't know what our desires are. But the moment we decide that we know what our desires are and we decide how important those are to us, then everything else gets to make sense. 3, everything is energy. Is that true? So this is energy, right? True? Right? Candle energy, piano energy, everything's energy, right? So, but when an object is in form, it is harder to access the energy. Because when it's in form, it is now crystallized in this pattern, right? Is why Jesus said, that's why Jesus just had one outfit. Because his energy wasn't tied up in all this stuff. So when he prayed, give us this day our daily bread, that's a pure download of energy. But everything is energy. So everything in your house that's in the room of form is already crystallized energy. And when something crystallizes into form, then you have to ensure it and wash it and clean it and move it, because now you can't easily move it into another form. Okay, 4. I want you to know the basis of your reality. And this is going to sound weird, but it really is helpful. See, if you have a garage full of stuff, and you look at that garage full of stuff as love, then every time you go out there, it's hard to let go of it because it's love. If you walk out in your garage and you have a garage full of stuff, and you have the basis of your reality is monetary or money, then you look at everything in your garage and say, oh, I can't get rid of that because it's worth something. If the basis of your reality is security, then you walk out into your garage full of stuff, and you see all that stuff, and all that stuff gives you security. But the truth is, it's just energy. Like moving to a reality of energy changes everything. So once you begin to move to a reality of energy, then you can ask yourself the question, what would I rather have? This or my heart's desire if I can't have both? And the key part of that statement is, if I can't have both. Because one of the spiritual lies that we've heard over and over and over again is that you can have it all. You can't have it all. You were never designed to have it all. Life is infinite, but you were never designed to have it all in any one moment. Like, if you go to a buffet and try to eat everything in the buffet, I've tried this, and it will just make you sick, right? If you try to own everything, it will just make you sick. We are not designed for everything, but it doesn't mean that we can't have the best, especially the best for us. So when you move into an energy-based reality, then what begins to happen is you look at everything in your life and say, what would I rather have, this box of my old Legos or my heart's desire if I can't have both? Or you look at your China pattern from, 3 relationships ago and say, do I want this China that I never use or my heart's desire if I can't have both? Or do I want all my Cub Scout uniforms? Or my heart's desire if I can't have both? And then you begin to actually peel off your life. And it really doesn't matter if you sell it. If it's energy, it doesn't matter if you sell it, burn it, give it away, because all we're doing is moving the energy from one form to another form that it makes it easier for you to create in this moment, right? So is everything energy? Have we settled that one, right? So love is love and stuff is stuff, true? Right? So that everything you let go of is just moving energy from one form to another form that actually makes it easier for you to create your highest desire, because you actually now have enough energy to create a life that is bigger than the life that you've created now. Because what I want you to see is Your storage unit, I'm going to challenge you, is I don't think it's making you happier. I think for many of us, it's so we don't feel bad that we're throwing stuff away. Or we don't feel bad that we're giving it away. Or don't feel bad that we just set it on fire. Right? Because it's just energy. And when you know what the most important thing is, you begin to look at everything in your life and say, what would I rather have? Is this really more important to me than being prosperous? Or is this really more important to me than being happy? Or is this really more important to me than going on a great vacation? If it's all energy, then everything both has a gift and a cost. So you ready for your homework? So if you know you're a hoarder, look, I have no judgment about it. I know that it is a huge addiction problem. And I want you to get supported if you know that you have a problem letting go. I want you to pray with one of the chaplains before you leave. I want you to get enough support so that you're willing to actually let go of things in your life that aren't serving you. Because this is a problem. It's a problem in our culture, is that we're collecting so much stuff thinking that the stuff is going to fill up what's going on inside of us. And it just never works that way. We have too much stuff. Can I get an amen? No judgment. We just have too much stuff. We just don't need that much stuff. So you ready for your homework? I'm going to invite you to pick one area, just one this week. One area that you know that is your place where you hide your stuff. One area. It could be a closet. It could be a drawer. It could be your garage. It could be one shelf on your garage. I want you to pick one area. It's going to be as small or as big, but don't make it too big because then it's just overwhelming and nothing happens. I want you to pick one area, one shelf, one closet, one drawer, and I want you to feel what happens when you get rid of all the stuff. Because what happens when you clean your closet or you clean a drawer or you clean your garage is you keep wanting to go back there because it's such an energy release. It's such a high when all the junk's gone. You feel so incredibly good. And everything in your life, if it's not serving you, then it's weighing you down. And I know that this is just physical, but we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. And for some of us, our physical experience isn't optimum right now. So tell yourself the truth. What would you rather have? Your junk drawer or your heart's desire? What would you rather have? All the things in your garage? Well, I need some of that stuff. Great. Well, you can keep some of it, but 90% of it gets to go. What would you rather have, that or your heart's desire? I believe for most of us, we're in the process of outgrowing our stuff. Our stuff served us for a time. But spiritually, it's not serving us anymore, but we're keeping it around like it is. And tonight, what would happen if you actually let it go? Would Goodwill be happy to receive it? Yes, are there 100 places in our community, 100 charities that would be happy to receive your wonderful, well-loved outfits? Yes. So this week, guess what we're doing? We are letting go. And I know it's going to bring up some feelings. And I know there's going to be times when you want to hang on to every one of those Lego sets. Or your kids' artwork, or not kids' artwork. Of course that has to stay. Right? But what if you made one brave, daring leap into letting go? And just see how good it feels. Will you pray with me? I invite you to open your mind, your heart, your soul to the activity of God that is right here, right now. That there is only one presence, one power, one God manifesting in each and every life. Today, God, we let go. We give it up. We give it away. We sell it. We release it to the highest good. God, you know who could best be served by all of our great treasures. And we give generously because we know that as we give, we will receive. That it will come back to us 10, 100, 1,000-fold in greater blessings. Today, God, help us set us free from all of our stuff. Help set us free from all the excess, from all the overwhelm, from all the too much. And let us know, God, right here in the simplicity of just enough. And so it is. Amen.